fights of all time, in every fight that's ever happened. But you look at those two separately, and you know, it wasn't their night tonight, and it wasn't an exciting fight.
Thought I would win against Anthony, but here I am with a broken jaw, learning the hard way. I'll heal.
And what you just saw was, yes, Jake Paul finding out there's levels to this game. Yes, Anthony Joshua not having the greatest performance of all time, but him doing exactly what he had to do, what he needed to do for boxing, what he needed to do for himself.
The internet exploded the moment Jake Paul hit the canvas in his long-rumored clash with Anthony Joshua. And all eyes immediately turned to Dana White. The UFC boss, who has spent years publicly dismissing Paul as a manufactured boxer, didn't even need to throw a punch himself. His reaction said everything, from a knowing smirk to blunt, no-nonsense comments. White appeared vindicated as the reality of elite heavyweight power collided with YouTube hype, turning Jake Paul's bravado into a brutal lesson watched by millions.
That calf kick, you know, the whole first round, he couldn't have had a better first round, and then he got caught.
Do you feel it's one of those things where, like, he got caught, or is it one of those things where Hangman age might be catching up to him, he might be slowing down? Which one do you think it could be?
Since Anthony Joshua brutally stopped Jake Paul in the 6th round of their heavyweight showdown, sending Paul to the hospital with a broken jaw and multiple fractures, the combat sports world hasn't stopped talking. Paul's injury was severe enough that he underwent surgery for titanium plates and teeth removal following the fight.
For my own credibility, I've got to knock you out, but I've got to try and knock you out where I'm not hurting you as much as what I could if I unleashed. Yeah. And with the punch you said that he landed, it's not his best punch, it's his most powerful punch, right? Yeah. And he's shattered his jaw in 2 places, right? So Anthony Joshua gets his 70 million, whatever it is, but I think he's sitting there thinking, thank God for that, thank God. On a human level, I've come out, all right, I've sort of, not reputation, but I haven't hurt him as bad as what I could have.
There should be an awful amount of people breathing a massive sigh of relief. Anybody that put that fight together, athletic commissions, like you said,
it wasn't a fight.
No, it wasn't at all. Like you said, it was a prize fight. It was an event. If Anthony damages him, he's got to live with that for the rest of his life.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of stress to deal with, you know what I mean? So I'm sure he's bleeding the side of relief. The team that have put him in there, that have negotiated that for him, but the authorities that put that on and commissioned it as a proper boxing match, I've no doubt.
Does that go on his...
Yeah, it's a professional boxing
Do you know what? If I was Anthony Joshua, I would be saying, I don't want that on my record. But for the credibility of them putting the fight on, they would have said to him, no, we've got to say this, it's been commissioned, it's going to be a proper fight. And I found it, I love my boxing, but I just find the whole thing really, really unedifying. You said about get followers. You mentioned Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury is nowhere near is his level of getting like a British title fight or whatever. Nowhere near. So it's basically he's like...
Beat Jake Paul.
Well, oh yeah, sorry, yeah, beat Jake Paul. But so
but what I'm saying is that's 100. I stand by that, and I think Tommy would admit that. You know what I mean? To become a British champion is a very prestigious thing to do, and I think he would struggle to do that.
But I think when I was reading, he got 5.6 or...
Scans and X-rays showed that his jaw was broken in 2 separate places. A severe injury often described as a double fracture. After the fight, Paul drove himself to a hospital to get treatment for the damage, where doctors confirmed the diagnosis. Recovery from the injury was expected to take around 4 to 6 weeks, and Paul took to social media to share images of the scans, confirm the fractures, and thank fans for their support during his recuperation. UFC President Dana White had previously dismissed the matchup as a bad idea, suggesting from the start that Paul was out of his depth against a decorated former heavyweight champion, and many saw Joshua's knockout as validating that viewpoint. White even joked that the fight's appeal was rooted in fans wanting to see Paul eventually get stopped, underlining his long-held skepticism about Paul's viability at the highest levels of boxing.
Oh, Jesus. That's a fucking bad idea. That's a bad idea. But let me tell you what, a lot of people will watch that one.
Will you watch it?
Sure. You know what everybody's tuning in for on that one. I think everybody's going to...
Analysts are now calling the entire build-up and aftermath a Tom and Jerry show, arguing the outcome was inevitable from the moment the fight was announced. According to several boxing insiders, Jake Paul spent months playing the loud, cartoonish provocator, while Anthony Joshua stayed silent, calculated, and patient, much like a predator waiting for the punchline. When the bell rang, the comedy ended fast. Joshua's power, timing, and ring IQ completely overwhelmed Paul, leading to a knockout that stunned casual fans but not serious analysts.
Oh man, great performance by Jake, brother.
Come on, bro. He's a fucking legend for that. He had such big balls getting in the ring with that guy, dude. Josh was a monster. He stayed in it the whole time, and I'm really proud of Jake, dude. All my respect to him, bro. Whatever outcome. I mean, dude, he went 6.5 rounds with Anthony Joshua, one of the best in the world. So I got nothing but respect.
And got up like 2 times.
No, it was sick.
Talk about that. I mean, there's been other heavyweights that have felt that right hand who haven't got up.
Nagano, so many people, bro. The overhand right. Jake's got a tough chin, dude. I think he does whatever he wants after this. He just has such big balls, dude. He had to keep moving. That was the only strategy. People are gonna say he ran around the ring. They don't know. They don't understand fucking boxing.
You showed a ton of heart, right? You showed a ton of heart. What's next for Jake Paul?
Legendary trainer Teddy Atlas shocked many boxing fans by outlining a possible path for Jake Paul to upset Anthony Joshua, even if it seems unlikely on paper. Atlas emphasized that styles make fights, suggesting Paul could leverage his younger age, faster feet, and movement to frustrate Joshua, especially if Joshua's timing and mindset aren't sharp after a long layoff and past losses. Atlas said Paul might run, use lateral movement, and capitalize on a surprise right hand whenever Joshua overcommits, noting that slipping rounds and keeping Joshua off balance could be enough to decide an 8-round bout. It wouldn't be pretty, but Atlas sees a tactical evasive game plan as Paul's best shot at a shocking victory.
About news that broke out, and it's someone that you've always shown respect to, and I've asked you these questions before about Jake Paul. We had a surprise announcement just the other day about him and Anthony Joshua. What was your reaction when you saw that announcement? It shocked a lot of people in boxing. What did you make of that? Or what do you make
Jake
of that?
hasn't made too many mistakes so far. So it got my attention. It got Teddy's attention. He's been growing. He's been growing in the ring. He's been growing outside the ring. He's been growing in confidence. I think that in the Canelo situation that didn't happen. He was ready to do that. I think if anything else, if nothing else, he's showing you that he truly is believing in himself. And that, he's been a work in progress. He still is. And he's showing you, he's putting his money where his mouth is. Everyone's calling for him to do this, to do that. And, he's always had the advantage with guys that weren't real fighters. They were fighters, they were older fighters, they were MMA fighters, they were this, they were that. They were smaller, they were older. Now he's taking a guy that's bigger, older, but bigger. A real, can't debate if he's a fighter. 2-time heavyweight champ. Coming off, but he's a smart son of a gun. He's a gutsy son of a... I always stood up for him because everyone was saying he was hurting the sport. He wasn't hurting the sport. In some ways, he was bringing interest in a different way to the sport. But
The bout, officially promoted as Judgment Day, was scheduled for 8 3-minute rounds in a heavyweight division, with Anthony Joshua entering as a heavy favorite due to his greater experience and height at 6 feet 6 inches and significant size advantage over Jake Paul, who weighed roughly 216 pounds to Joshua's 243 pounds. After several tentative early rounds, Joshua began to take control, dropping Paul multiple times in the 5th round before closing the fight with a devastating knockout early in the 6th at 131, landing a crushing right hand that sent Paul to the canvas and forced the referee to stop the bout.
Anthony Joshua. Paul was sturdy for the first couple of rounds, but as the fight went on, the more experienced Joshua began to take control. After continuously connecting in the 5th round, it was only a matter of time before it was over. In the 6th, Joshua went on to knock out Paul with a big right hand. Joshua improved his career record to 29-4 now. Paul loses for the 2nd time in his career to go along with 12.
Former UFC champion Daniel Cormier, who had publicly expressed skepticism before the bout, essentially said there was never a realistic chance Jake Paul could beat Joshua, but acknowledged that Paul's toughness allowed him to reach the later rounds. Cormier pointed out that Anthony Joshua carried Jake Paul to the 6th round and that the fight was always going to end with a punch because Paul simply wasn't at Joshua's level. He noted that Joshua eventually landed the clean fight-ending right hand because it was inevitable given the difference in skill and power, even if Paul showed heart by surviving multiple rounds before the knockout.